Hello, all. Welcome to my living room in beautiful Middlesex County, where I just watched an insane finish to the Rutgers USC basketball game out in sunny Los Angeles. The Spartans lost 78-75 in a game they were trailing by as much as 17. Well, they were trailing by as much as 19, but they were down 17 points with 4:34 to go, and they rip off an 18-4 run in the last 4 minutes to put themselves in position to send this game into overtime. They had the ball with 7 seconds left, and Tariq Francis dribbles the ball off his foot, it looked like, and it was a turnover for Rutgers, and the miracle comeback came very close, but ultimately came up short. Rutgers has now lost 5 games in a row. It remains winless in true road games this season. That is now 0 of 6 in true road games this season. 1 of 8 in games away from the rack this season. And another close call for Rutgers. A little different from the Michigan State game, almost the reverse from the Michigan State game, where in that game Rutgers was up the whole time and they trailed. In this one, USC was dominating the first 35 minutes, and Rutgers very nearly pulled off a Michigan State-esque comeback and forced the game to go into overtime. Rutgers did that, we'll see, with its hustle. 4 turnovers in the last 4 minutes. USC had a total of 17 turnovers. And they hit some shots at the end. Rutgers hit 7 of its last 9 field goal attempts in the last 4:34. And they only allowed USC to shoot 2 of them, 2 shots from the field because of 4 turnovers and 6 free throws, 2 of which USC missed. But the issue lies in the fact that Rutgers had to come back from 17 down, and that's because they were dominated in the first 35 minutes inside, particularly in the first half inside, fouled a ton, and decided to start pressing out of desperation in the last 5 minutes, and it worked. And played really hard in the last 5 minutes, and it worked. And I guess the question is, one, why is that effort not there earlier in the game when you're not down by 20 points? Why do they seemingly keep coming out flat on the road? Iowa was an exception, but Wisconsin was very similar to this. Michigan was very similar to this. Obviously, Michigan's a whole other caliber, but the point stands that Rutgers just comes out so flat on the road so often. And again, you can give them credit for the comeback, and I certainly will, but the fact that comeback is even needed to that degree is not a good sign. And the press maybe could be thrown out earlier, maybe thrown out a little bit more sporadically. I don't know if that's again, it's not a solution for a whole game. You can't press for 40 minutes. But if that's going to be one of the few things that is executed well, putting a little bit of ball pressure full court on the opponent to rile them up, maybe that's something to consider. Guys, let me know how the sounds. Again, I don't have my mic just yet. I will get it again soon. And let me know what you think about the game. I imagine that this looked like another sleepy game. I imagine a lot of you tuned out before the last 4 minutes, so you didn't see the insanity. But Frank R says that USC got to the line 30 times, Rutgers 12. USC was pounding the ball inside. And that resulted in USC having 36 points in the paint, which is less than it was on pace to do. 24 of its first 32 points were in the paint. USC went 14 of 20 at the rim. And to Rutgers' credit, in the first half, USC scored 24 points in the paint. In the second, they scored 12. Rutgers was really trying to crash down inside and make it difficult for them to get to the rim. And to an extent, it worked. USC did shoot twice as many threes, 4 in the first half, 4 in the first half, 8 in the second half, and they made 4 of them in the second half. I think the free throw numbers are the fact that USC drives to the rim, USC got inside, USC physically dominated Rutgers. They did whatever they wanted offensively, and Rutgers had no choice but to foul. Whereas Rutgers offensively, as we've said ad nauseum here, does not get to the rim enough and takes a lot of mid-range jumpers where you're not gonna draw a lot of fouls. So I think a lot of that is due to style of play. I'm not sure if this is what you're insinuating, Frank R. I will assume it's not, but just to kind of discuss the home whistle thing, I didn't think it was a particularly egregious whistle. today. I thought it was a pretty unremarkable officiating day. Ben Hernandez says that Francis was too nonchalant too often. I, I think the guy has to carry a massive load offensively. I think there's a certain exhaustion in that. Um, that's kind of subjective. I mean, one could view it that way. I don't find that to be a particular problem. He had a pretty decent day from my eye test. Let me check the stats real quick. He scored 26 points on 10 of 19 shooting, 1 of 3 on threes, 5 of 5 on free throws, 5 assists, 2 rebounds, 1 turnover, and 4 fouls in 27 minutes. The foul trouble got him, off the court for a period, but he still played 27 minutes. Again, he was the best player on the floor for Rutgers. He was a big reason they came back at the end, and a big reason they weren't down by more earlier in the game. So he continues to be their best offensive option, despite all odds. Despite he was getting blitzed in the first half off of ball screens sometimes. USC was trying really hard not to let them get the ball in his hands. As we've said before, he's really the only offensive option for the most part at Rutgers. Today, he did get some help. Dylan Grant, 4 of 7 shooting on the first half, 9 points with 6 rebounds and 2 assists. He finishes with 14 points on 13 shots, 6 of 13 shooting, 10 rebounds. So he has a double-double, 2 assists and 1 turnover. I thought he had one of his better games once again. I think he's starting to find a bit of a rhythm, especially now that he's back from the flu. And he's playing, I'm not saying he's playing great, but he is playing better. And he did help Francis there. Kane Powers, 9 points on 4 of 8 shooting. Had a decent day offensively. Lino Mark came into the day 0 of 17 on threes. He goes 2 of 4 back home to LA. His first 2 3-pointers as a college player. He had a couple of baskets at the end of, midway through the second half that kind of kept Rutgers in it and allowed them to make that late run. Harun Zerno, 9 points on 3 of 10 shooting, 6 points in the second half. It felt like another Harun Zerno special where, he makes most of his scoring in the second half of a blowout loss, but, Rutgers still lost, but ultimately his points did count towards making somewhat of a respectable comeback. So that's where, there was some help offensively, but defensively, Rutgers really struggled to handle USC's athleticism, its size. As one of our commenters noted, they gave up 30 free throws. They gave up USC shot only 12 threes. They took 39 shots inside the arc. 20 of those were in the paint, and they shot on twos. They shot 56.4%, which is pretty good. So, I think a lot of the issues inside, again, as we've spoken about ad nauseum, are at center. Emmanuel Bowling had a shocking day. He did get 6 rebounds and 3 assists and 3 blocks and 2 steals. Those numbers look okay, but in the first half, he was getting bullied down low. He went 0 of 3 from the field. He missed 2 layups and a dunk, which is just almost unfathomable. So he had his moments defensively. The stats were a bit surprising to me, to be honest with you. I did remember an assist he had late in the comeback, but I think they're a bit generous for the kind of performance he had, because 3 blocks and 2 steals and 3 assists, they do provide something. They are positive, but the amount of points he gave up, the amount of free lanes he gave up in the paint were, take that away. I think today, more than any other game this season, well, I shouldn't say that, but one of the more obvious examples this season of Rutgers needing desperately to put not most of its resources, a majority of its resources, the biggest amount of its resources out of all positions on the roster to center. Rutgers has now 2 years in a row just been playing 4 on 5 without a center, at times on both ends of the court, for the most part offensively. I think they desperately need someone in the middle you can throw the ball into, and that is at least a threat to score, and that could provide some solid defense on a regular basis on the other end. I thought, again, I've said this before, Emmanuel Bolle has had good stretches of defense this season. He's gone from being almost unplayable last year to being able to handle his own on that end for the most part. But I thought the first half, particularly today, he really, really struggled to defend there. And again, Bryce Dortch is just he's not big enough. It's not his size, it's not his position to play center. He had a bit of a struggle there as well. Jake Schmid. Hey, Jake, how you doing? Nice to hear from you. What do you make of Tariq not being urgent with the ball at the last few seconds? You think Gio or Ron would know game awareness? Maybe that, I don't know. I did think he was a bit not as urgent as he should be. I agree with that sentiment there. I mean, he dribbles the ball off his foot near midcourt with 2 seconds left. Um, Maybe he didn't realize how much time was left. Maybe um, there was too much resistance from USC to let him go up, and he wasn't going to pass the ball, right? I would agree with that assessment. I would say though, the time and everything, I just don't think he get a clean shot off anyway. I do agree that it should have been more urgent. The issue is that Rutgers also didn't have any timeouts, so that wasn't even an option to set something up. Um, which Steve Peichel took his last time out, I think with 3 minutes left when Rutgers cut it to 10. It worked out because it set up the defense, it forced a turnover, it helped Rutgers kind of continue to fuel the comeback, but that bites you in the end because you can't call timeout in either direction to try to get a stop, which they ultimately did, and then to try to set something up offensively. So, but yeah, Jake, to answer your question, I did feel there was a bit of a lack of urgency, but he was kind of going against the clock there at the end. Uh, doesn't Rick Pitino team seem to play a full game of pressure D? It's a sense of urgency. You can press, but need to be disciplined, not to foul. Rick Pitino also has significantly better athletes and probably a much deeper team. Rutgers played, it has been shortening its rotation, but they still played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys. I just don't, I don't think they have enough bodies that you can consistently depend on and risk committing a foul, right? Like Tariq Francis had 4 fouls today. You can't have a guy like him in position to rack up early fouls in the game because then you get into a massive hole like this. So, Frank asked if he dribbled off his foot, thought the defender poked it out with his left hand. That's possible. I got to be honest. I didn't watch too many replays. It looked to me off first impression. It was off his foot. Either way, I think that the timing, I think he crossed half court with 2 seconds left from what I remember seeing. So that's just not enough time to get anything better than a chucked up shot. The fact Rutgers was even in that position is a borderline miracle. But again, the fact that that's true is also an indictment. USC is not very good. They did not have a great home court advantage. Their best player's been out for the season for a month now or two. I think a month. Again, it's not like you're playing on the road at Purdue or Michigan. Just don't. You can't get down 19 points on the road like that. You can't be trailing the whole game, and give yourself a shot. Curious if we finished the investigation of the One Piece cards. Not yet. I don't have any more information that we reported on the pod yesterday. I know the RUPD is working hard on it. I would anticipate probably in a couple weeks. That was the timeline of the burglary at SHI Stadium. Maybe this one has more urgency because there is somewhat of a timeline because the Nebraska game is a week from today. I don't think they're going to be able to recover the cards anyway, frankly, unless the person that stole them is as absent-minded as the person who left, the cards in an office at the rack, and they just happen to leave them at their dorm or at their house or whatever, and make it easily traceable. But we'll let you guys know everything we know on that because I know there's some interest, and personally, I'm fascinated by the situation, but nothing as of right now. By the way of an update. Ben asked, do I think the run at the end was more good Rutgers D or bad USC press? I thought a combination of both. I thought USC kind of let its hair down and kind of relaxed, thinking it was going to coast to a win when they're up 17 with 4 minutes to go, which is probably a safe assumption. And I don't know if they expected Rutgers to go balls to the wall to try to pull a comeback back. But I think it's one of these snowball effects where Rutgers hits 2 shots, they commit a turnover, and things suddenly start looking like maybe this game isn't in hand, and it becomes kind of a nervous Nelly situation there. To be fair to them, Rutgers hit some shots at the end. Like I said, they hit 7 of their last 9 shots. It felt almost like Murphy's Law. Everything that could go wrong is going wrong, and it was again. So again, I think it's a combination. I thought Rutgers pressed well. USC was also passing the ball into the corner, which is the worst thing to do in a press. I would say pretty much everything went right for Rutgers in that direction, other than obviously the last possession. How does a guy transfer in December? Well, it's the new thing in college basketball. There are, the thing with basketball that's different than football, for example, is that there are 2 different semesters, right? You start the game in the fall semester, you end it in the spring. So in theory, a guy can enroll at the school for the spring semester. So that's the logistical way you do it. And this particular player, I'm assuming you're talking about Cam Woods, was in the portal and had just not, and hadn't hadn't committed anywhere, hadn't signed anywhere, and USC needed a body, and they added him. So that's how it happened. Rutgers was in consideration of adding a guy the spring semester earlier, and that didn't work out for whatever reason. But they were in the market, as Steve Pikiell said, and that just didn't happen. But USC is far from the only one. Ole Miss added one. Dayton added one, I want to say. And there were a couple others, but I don't remember off the top of my head. And I just don't want to be listing schools that I don't know for certain. Curious says that me and Politi should be in charge of the instigation. I don't know. I don't think I'm going to do much better than Kenneth Kopp, who again was born to do this. Red Sox hat, Matthew Velardo asks. I'm wearing it because I don't have my Star Ledger hat. I couldn't find it quickly enough to go on the live. But I'm a Red Sox fan. Very casual. Very casual. I grew up I grew up a Yankees fan. I grew up a Red Sox fan because everyone I knew growing up was a Yankees fan. And as I'm sure many of you guys have figured out, I am a massive contrarian, or at least I was as a kid. I've been working on it. But I've stuck around as a Red Sox fan. Went to Fenway last year. But I've been to Yankee Stadium a bunch of times. I don't particularly hate the Yankees, partly because we cover them and I've covered some games, and I just don't really care about baseball all that much, to be quite honest with you guys. So, but thank you for asking. Golby Law says, regardless of the pace coming up the court, I don't think Francis gets a shot off, as it seemed like Muss was yelling to foul at the end, emblematic by Baker Mazzara sticking his hand in there. Maybe I would think that Muss is a foul up three guy, particularly in that situation. It would make sense. You could probably find the right person to foul. I mean, Francis is the last person you want to foul on that Rutgers roster, but given the time, if you foul him with 2 seconds left, it's probably enough time to safely, inbound the ball, kill some time, get fouled, and win the game. So, barring a catastrophic turnover, I think you're right that that would happen. But I guess that's an advantage for the defense in that you can gamble to poke the ball away, and either way, you're good because you either do the steal you did today and win the game, or you foul like you intend to anyway. So that's a fair observation. I'm gonna have to watch the play back to see whether that looks like the case or not. It wasn't on my initial impression, but I will take your word for it. You probably had a more HD TV than I do. Musically says the only way to start winning and have a top 25 is with a new coach. If you do it with 2 top 5 draft picks, you never will. I understand the financials and dumb contract extensions. Look, they're gonna Steve Pikiell's coming back next year again, barring a shocking development. So this is kind of a moot point. I think they're going to try to see if Rutgers can come back to prosperity with a little bit more NIL money to work with. Big E did have a presence at the end, yes, but it was too little, too late. He had a massive amount to do to make up for all the rough play he had in the first half. So again, I'm not discounting it. The stats are what they are: 3 blocks, 3 assists, 2 steals is pretty good for a center. But I just think he didn't do he did a lot of bad in the first half. And I don't think he did enough, particularly in the second half, to make up for it, because obviously Rutgers lost by 3. That's not the end all be all to explain that situation, but I think you guys understand what I'm getting at here. Has there ever been a player to lead the team in scoring come off the bench? Where's Chat GP Fonseca when I need it? That's funny. I could look into it. I don't know if there are dedicated stats on guys coming off the bench. The Big Ten only went as far back as 1996 for that stat on the last Big Ten player to score 30 points on back-to-back games off the bench. I would guess no. I would guess it would be very rare, because in 99% of cases, if you're leading scorers on the bench, you put them in the starting lineup. But Rutgers and Steve Pikiell have decided to keep doing this, which again I don't disagree with. I know it might drive some people crazy. I think it's whatever. It is what it is. Like it doesn't really matter. The guy played 27 minutes. He was going to play 27 minutes if he started anyway. One could argue that the Rutgers got off to a bad start today. They were down. Let's see when he checked in, just to kind of test this theory out. Tariq Francis first checked into the game with 14:49. Rutgers was down 8-4. They're down 4 points. It's not like they're down 20-4, and you say, well, if he was in there, things would change. And the other thing is also, like, he would give Rutgers more offensive firepower, no doubt, but he wouldn't be a plus defender. So, I mean, I don't think he would stop them from giving up 8 or 10 or whatever points. So, I think it's kind of a moot point. But to answer your question, it would be a fascinating stat to look into. We'll do some research. Chat GP Fonseca. We'll get back to you soon. Is there any chance Rutgers brings in a new coach next year to run the offense? I thought that would be possible this season, and they didn't. I think there will be some pressure to make some changes on the coaching staff, just because you got to change something, right? Someone's got to have to be the sacrificial lamb. They have a lot of, aside from Brandon Knight, the entire coaching staff, aside from Steve Peichel and Brandon Knight, who have long-term contracts, the rest of the staff is their contracts are expiring, so it wouldn't cost anything to not renew them. I would think you'd want to add an assistant to come in here and give them carte blanche to run an offense, to implement some sort of offense. I would agree there. But will they? I don't know. Should they? 100%. 100%. Because whatever they're doing now clearly isn't working with the amount of mid-range jumpers and inefficient shots and inability to get to the rim. And part of that is due to lack of talent, no doubt. But even when they had their best talent at this school in 30 years, they were doing the same thing. So I agree with your sentiment here, Ben, that Rutgers needs some fresh blood on the bench to instill some new age offensive principles. No doubt about it. Brian G says it's not a good team, but the effort is there. If we had a good center this year, we would win 8 to 10 Big Ten games. I don't know that. I disagree on winning 8 to 10 games. What I will say is, if you are praising a team for its effort and because it plays hard, usually that means the team is very bad. It's just like if Tom Izzo is praising you after a game where he beats you, that's not a great sign. That might as well be the kiss of death. This is a Big Ten basketball program. They must be evaluated by how they play, not how hard they play. Playing hard, it should be a prerequisite, I think. But playing hard only matters insofar as it helping you win, right? So I think it's good they play hard at the end. I thought they played much harder at the end than in the beginning. I just don't think that that's something that should necessarily be outed as a big achievement. Which I'm not saying you are, Brian G, but I'm just saying that it's not a good sign when the word effort, like a great effort, is seen as a badge of honor or a feather in the cap. Frank R says USC had 3 guys that played 37 minutes. Musk rides a short bench, and Musk has guys that can do it. The Chad kid from Colonia scored a lot. Let's see where you were. Okay, so Chad Baker Mazzara, 17 points in 38 minutes. Jacob Kofi had 15 points in 37. Cam Woods had 8 points in 38. They had 4 guys play 34 more minutes. Ezra Osser played 34 minutes. So short rotation. And it worked. It worked, right? Maybe that's why they gave out at the end. But that's very I'm blanking here, but there are coaches who do that just because they trust. It's like this is an example I was thinking of. It's like Shaheen Holloway, the year they won the NIT. They had 7 guys they trusted, and they rode those guys till the wheels fell off. Sometimes it's like that. It's not worth playing your depth if your depth is so much worse than the rest of your roster. So I think Muss is in a situation, particularly now that Rodney Rice is out for the year, where you're gonna have to ride the guys, the hot hand, the guys that can play, or else you don't really have a chance. Frank R, to that point, continues and says that he'd play Francis all night, only real offensive threat. Listen, if you think he should play 35 minutes a night instead of 28, I won't fight back. I won't fight back on that. I think I can see that. I don't know Drake Francis' conditioning. I don't know if that's part of it. I don't know the reasoning. I don't know if they're worried about foul trouble. I don't know why they don't do that. But I would agree that it would not be a necessarily bad thing for him to get a little bit more minutes. That being said, I mean, the guy played 27 minutes. Sorry, he played 27 minutes and took 19 shots, right? The other day, he played 30 minutes and took 23 shots. He's getting enough volume shooting, right? So you could tell me also you think he should take 25, 30 shots a night, which again, I guess I'd rather him take a shot than anyone else on the roster. But this, whether you agree with myself or you or not, whatever, it's the fact this is a conversation that Rutgers has one guy it needs to be on the court at all times to have any semblance of an offensive threat. Tells you all you need to know, really. All right, so we've gone 25 minutes here. I see no more new comments. If anyone has a comment, please throw it in there. But otherwise, Rutgers plays again on Tuesday at UCLA, which is a tougher LA school. UCLA lost in a double overtime heartbreaker to Indiana. Lost at the free throw line at the end. Indiana having a heck of a week between beating Rutgers, beating Purdue, and beating UCLA. They had a 4-game losing streak before playing Rutgers, and now they've won 3 in a row. And they play USC on Tuesday. Rutgers plays UCLA on Tuesday. The Miles Johnson Bowl, as we like always. All right, well, I guess that's all. Thank you guys for tuning in at 9:30 on a Saturday night. Another live show in the books. DRC asked the obsession of the Eiffel Tower behind you. I did not. This is not my day, Cobra. It's not something I particularly have a big say in, and it was here before I moved in. So I have been to the Eiffel Tower though. Paris is a lovely place. I have cousins that live in Paris and other parts of France. Lovely country that I'd love to visit again someday. So, but I'm not particularly, the Eiffel Tower. You can take it or leave it. It's I'm fascinated by the copyright thing where you can't take a photo of it at night, I think, or during the day, whatever the rule is. It's very strange. But Jason Curry with the live report. He says he went to the game. Tough finish. They could have won this game. I agree with that assessment, Jason. Anything interesting from the game? Did you get a chance to say hello to Kelly Zinn? Did you observe anything in person that maybe was not on the Peacock broadcast? I'll give you a few seconds to throw something in the chat if you'd like. And there's another comment here from Musically that I missed. Do I know any other coach that is proud of their kids for losing? A coach that never yells at his kids? He yells at his players, maybe not publicly. He does not air them out publicly, but I've been to practices and I don't know if he dresses them down individually, but he yells and he curses up a storm. That's maybe something people that don't watch the game close or haven't been to a practice realize. Steve Peichel he has the mouth of a sailor, that's for sure. So he does yell at them, and he has individual film sessions with them. He's honest with them. So I don't think they're losing games because the coach is too nice, if that's what you're implying. I don't think he's a psychopath like Danny Hurley, for example. But I think the demeanor thing's a little underrated. I don't think if he yelled at his players more, they'd make more shots. That's kind of that's very old school Bob Knight thinking. I kind of applaud not making a fool of players. Oh my goodness, did TRC just break this news to me about Lou Holtz? Did that just happen? I'm looking it up right now. I don't see it on Google. Is it on Twitter? This is what you guys stick around for late at night on a Saturday to see if Lou Holtz. This is fake news. I don't see anything. Well, I see some stuff now. Anyway, it sounds like it's gonna. If it's not happening now, it's gonna happen anytime soon because he's in hospice care. Jason says he saw Kelly at the mixer, but didn't have a chance to meet her. Nice RU turnout for the game. The mixer looked like it was well attended, and I saw some photos on Twitter. I missed Kelly's halftime interview. I will listen to that tonight. I cannot imagine she broke any news, but it was good to see her be active in LA, and hopefully she and the rest of the contingent enjoyed their trip because they're not coming back until Wednesday. Or I should say Tuesday night after the UCLA game. The UCLA game, which is, by the way, I haven't even checked the time, 9:30 Eastern. Oh, it's going to be a late live show for all of us. I hope all 42 of you who are on here now will listen to us live. Will listen to me live at 11:30 on Tuesday night. Let me know. I want some promises in the chat right now that you guys will be here, or else I might not do it because that is about an hour past my bedtime. Rena says that Francis reminds me so much of Corey Sanders. I agree. I wrote a story last week about Rutgers' dependence on Tariq Francis, and the numbers were essentially, as far as shot volume and shot locations, he's Corey Sanders. Not, I would say Corey Sanders was, obviously was more athletic, was bigger, but both take a lot of mid-range jumpers, both have a knack to create their own shot, and both are given massive amounts of responsibility to create offense for bad teams. Corey Sanders had a little bit more help. He had Deshaun Freeman. He had a freshman Geo Baker and a freshman Eugene Omoruyi, I want to say. So there was a little bit more talent there. But who knows? Maybe one of these freshmen on this team become a Geo Baker or a Eugene Omoruyi. I'm the jury's still out on that. I'm not sure I see that, but I also don't think I saw what Eugene Omoruyi turned out to be when he was a freshman. So that's why we follow these things. That's why we watch the games and we follow this team through the years. Musically says it's great that they booked the West Coast games back to back. It is a norm. It's a Big Ten scheduling norm. It's the only way it makes sense. You're not going to do two LA trips at once. Just like last year, Rutgers did the Oregon-Washington games back to back. That's just the sensible way to schedule, and it's why the schedule is so complicated and why the LA teams complain so much about their schedule, because they have to do the opposite. While they host teams, over a weekend, then they have to travel from wherever, from Lincoln, Nebraska to West Lafayette, Indiana, whereas Rutgers goes from LA to LA. It's all the same thing. So I don't know this for a fact, but I wouldn't be shocked if they stay in the same hotel. I know these places are a little far apart, but what is it, an hour between USC and UCLA? So I think it's a lot easier to travel between those two schools than otherwise. Frank says he'll be here. Thanks, Frank. I'll be looking forward to your comments. As always, thanks for participating. Cowabunga says USC players were older. Maybe Rutgers center is 25 years old, so I just don't think age is a very relevant thing. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I don't think that. Chad Baker Mazura is 26. I want to say Mazzara. He is 26 years old. He is 26 years old. He's 4 years younger than me. He's a native. But again, Emmanuel Bolle is 25 years old, so Rutgers has some old players on its roster as well. All right. Well, I think we've been going on long enough. Rutgers will hope to get off the schneid against UCLA on Tuesday. If they don't, again, they'll have to try to beat Nebraska, which is 20-1, or could be 20-2 after the Illinois game on Sunday at the RAC. And then if not, they got Maryland as their next realistic chance. We will get back there. Steve and I should record a podcast Monday. I shouldn't make these promises, but I think we will. And either way, we will be back here on Tuesday night to talk about the Rutgers UCLA. Thank you guys for tuning in, for subscribing, for liking. Thank you to the Heldrich for sponsoring. I always forget to shout them out at the beginning, but I will make sure to do so at the end. I'm having a hard time pointing. But right there, the Heldrich Hotel, the best hotel in New Brunswick. And again, thanks guys for everything, for participating, for tuning in, for watching. We will see you all Tuesday night, 11:30 or midnight if it goes to overtime, heaven forbid. Till then, talk to you guys. Bye.